bendaba ubusiko seyikhala ingcuka emhlophe ibawela mathambo kaMshweshwe Mshweshwe nobuthongo phezulu entabeni siyahola isisu ngamathambo enkosi ubomvu umlomo ukuxapha usandile yaginya okampande ozithozigoso yamkhupha esahleli vukani izimbila zendaba ubusiko. I hope your majesties you understood what I've just said. I'm led to believe that this is the correct rendition of this poem in Sesotho. Tsohang bana bathaba bosigo phiri iyalla phiri etsweu ilapetse masapo a morena Moshoeshoe ya itobaletseng ka godimo thaba mala a ya korotla a thabetse masapo a morena molomo o rota madi o tswa garola sandile ekwense mbande ya dihoro emutheola teroneng ya gae pele go nako tsogang lona dipela tsa thaba bosigo. I have no doubt that all of us present here today are very familiar with the truly remarkable story of that eminent African leader of the 19th century and all time, His Majesty King Moshoeshoe I. That story includes the historically important proclamation by the British in 1868 of the Protectorate of Basutolanders at the request of King Moshoeshoe. And there is no doubt that King Moshoeshoe was perfectly conscious of the fact that the British were colonizers in the same way as the Boers. After all, the Basotho under his leadership had fought the British arms in hand exactly to avoid being colonized by them. It was a stroke of genius that, to borrow a saying, King Moshoeshoe snapped victory from the jaws of defeat by persuading the British to proclaim Moshoeshoe's kingdom a protectorate of the British Crown, thus saving it from becoming a Boer colony. The poem I've just read by Jonathan Siko, Tsohang bana bathaba bosigo, published 13 years after King Moshoeshoe passed away, draws our attention to what was a critically important understanding among the indigenous peoples of Southern Africa at the time, when they were resisting colonization during the 19th century. The guerrilla wars fought in many African and other countries during the 20th century to defeat imperialism, colonialism, and apartheid, introduced in the global vocabulary the concept of a liberated area. These areas will provide a base for the continuation of the guerrilla struggle for liberation. What the poet, the Harp of the Nation, was saying was that Lesotho, or Basutoland as it was called then, was to the struggling peoples of Southern Africa a liberated area. It was a base for the continuation of the struggles to defeat the process of the colonization throughout this region. And so when the poet said, Tsohang bana bathaba bosigo, this was not an imposition on the people of Lesotho, but an affirmation of a role which King Moshoeshoe himself understood and accepted, that the protectorate could not be an end in itself, but a liberated area further to advance the struggle for the total liberation both of Lesotho and its neighborhood. It was because the indigenous people in our region knew that this was part of the very being of the Basotho that Jonathan Siko could even write, Tsohang lona dipela tsa thaba bosigo. The colonists also knew this and never forgave King Moshoeshoe for it. That is why 13 years after the king had passed away, the poet could write that the wolf is on the prowl, the white wolf, hungry for the bones of Moshoeshoe. That Moshoeshoe, who sleeps on the mountain, the stomach of the white wolf is excited by the bones of the king. On the 22nd of March, 1912, just over 2 months after the establishment of the African National Congress at a conference in Bloemfontein, the newspaper established by the first president of the African National Congress, Reverend John Dube, Ilanga Lasenatal, published an article by Pixley Kaseme, one of the prime movers of the ANC. Your Majesties and dear friend, I beg your indulgence to permit to read quite a substantial part of this article because of its importance. Seme wrote that the highest officer among the executive commoners of the ANC is the Reverend John Dube, who is styled president. Even he, however, is not the supreme head of the Congress as has been supposed. He is, under the Constitution, the chief executive of the Executive Commons and chairman of the same. We have seen, however, that the nobles are there to guide and control him as well as the commons. And he said that the highest position in Congress, therefore, is that of the leader of the nobles. This great person is Letsie II, the paramount chief of Basotho land. This position was clearly understood and accepted by the delegates at the whole Congress in Bloemfontein. It was unanimity of the sentiment and devotion which made election unnecessary. This was a position which Chief Mahama, as a representative of Letsie II, occupied throughout Congress without any question. Chief Mahama finally controlled not only the acting president, but the whole Congress. This is sufficient proof of the fact that Letsie II, whom a representative, is the real head of the South African Native National Congress by the unanimous consent of the whole Congress and of the noble chiefs who rendered notable assistance. Thus, it is true that Letsie II is now not the paramount chief of Basotho land only, but is through this Congress a national prince over all of the natives of Southern Africa who came under the Congress. And he said, Sir, I've written this in order to dissipate all doubt, unquote. I believe that this is sufficient to show that this great grandson of MoshoeshoeII, Letsie II, had not forgotten or departed from the legacy of the Basotho royal family, initiated by King Moshoeshoe I, towards its own and the commitment of the people as a whole to serve as a liberated area in the continuing struggle for the liberation of the African peoples. And this was exactly why His Majesty King Letsie II played such a prominent role in the establishment of the African National Congress, then representing Africans from as far away as the present-day Zambia. In an address on the 16th of December 1971, to mark the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the real Mkhonto